Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Run, Selfie, Repeat podcast, where we talk about life with the side of running. My name is Kelly Roberts, and I am going to exit out of this screen. For those of you who are watching this on YouTube, I don't like watching myself. And because we're doing this way now, where we're both putting it out on the Run, Selfie, Repeat podcast, or you can watch it on YouTube, when I record, I can see myself, and I hate that. I say that every time we've been doing episodes because it drives me nuts. I don't know. I can't watch myself. I can't do it. I'll start being like, what's this on my face? How's everybody doing? I feel like absolute trash. She says as she laughs. I don't know what it is. I feel like something is blooming and my allergies are going crazy, which is weird because it's like the end of January and it's not really allergy time. Although it might be radiators and dust, but like I run a pretty tight ship, so like I don't know what it is, but I don't feel good. I don't feel good, and I was supposed to do a time trial today, and I was like, you got to look out for yourself, and we're calling it a rest day because I have no desire to work out today. People always ask me, my athletes specifically, how do I motivate myself when I don't want to run? And I always tell them, ask yourself, do I want to? If the answer is a resounding no, don't work out. Just skip it. Right? There's so much in our lives that we have to do, and running and working out should not be one of them. That the way to get to a place where you either have less resistance, right? I don't need you to constantly need to be like throwing a musical opening number, excitement level when you're going to go for a run. It's okay to say it's okay to not want to run, but if there's a but at the end of that sentence, or if you're like, I don't really want to go for a run, but let's just get this over with. I care about my goal and today matters. Things like that. Or if the answer is maybe or yes, you can go try. But like today I was like, no, I don't want to at all because I feel like absolute garbage. And that's the kind of thing that you should listen to, right? I'm not stuffy. I don't have a sore throat. I'm just fatigued. So like, is it safe for me to go for a run? 100%. I could have gone for a run, but I didn't want to go for a run. So I'm not going for a run. Instead, I'm making sourdough. I'm back in my sourdough making phase, which is exciting. So this is my first try since 2020. So I don't know how it's going to go. I'll keep you posted. But I love making sourdough. It's very intense. It's a lot of work. So that's my workout. That's my workout. What else is new? I just got back from the run show up in Boston. The run show is like the expo without the race. And I hosted the road stage on Saturday and Sunday. And it was so much fun and so very exhausting. I got back late Sunday night and just since then have kind of been walking around in a fog. It was just a lot of being on and a lot of work. It was really fun and I'm really glad I did it. I've never really hosted like that before and I loved it. I had a great time. A really great time. I'm grateful that I was invited to be a part of it because I loved that I didn't have to talk about myself. I could just introduce other people or lead, really fun panels or Q&As. I got to talk to Hella. I almost called him Hella Good. That's Hella's Instagram handle. Hella Sibide. Sorry, Hella. Right as I'm trying to say his name, I'm like totally short circuiting. Hella. That is your name. I love Hella. We got to do. If you're not familiar with Hella, he's an online personality and a really great athlete. And one of the best mindsets in the running game, like the most positive, the most like kind, just like a good guy, so much fun to talk to. He's ran across America. He has done a run streak since 2019, I think, maybe even sooner. Years and years and years he's been doing a run streak, and he's training for a marathon right now, and it was fun to talk to him about that. He's just a wonderful person, and he's like the type of person that when you leave, you're reminded that it takes work to be a good person and that we should all be working to be a good person. So I loved getting to talk to him. I got to do that. I led a panel on masters running, which I was supposed to just introduce them, but then one of the panelists was like, hey, why don't you just pose us questions? And I was like, sure, I'd love to. I love this topic. So that was really fun, and they were so fun and interesting. I led a fireside chat with an athlete named Michael Johnson, who I'll be totally honest with you, I had no idea who it was. I don't know much about track and field, so he is a big deal, and I did not know that. Which I'm glad I didn't know that because I didn't need to stress myself out. He's just a human being. And it was really fun. He was really fun to talk to. So that was really fun. And then we ended Sunday. The last talk was Laura Green, who, if you're not following her on social, Laura is so funny, and I've known her for years. She used to work for November Project for a long time, and that's how I know her. My friend Brogan introduced us, being like, "You two will like each other," and so we've known each other for a long time. And she's so funny, and it's so fun to see her in this new influencer space and as a creator where she's making these really funny videos. So it was so fun to get to see her and hang out with her and go to dinner and like catch up because we never get to catch up. So that was really fun. It was just nice. It was nice to see a bunch of friends and people. I loved it. I had a ball. But yeah, that's what's new with me. And I just, I'm going to Tokyo on Sunday. I'm going to Taylor Swift. And I keep seeing all of these TikToks, these videos of people pretending that the concert's gonna be so fast because she's gonna try to get back for the Super Bowl. And a little part of me gets very angry because I'm gonna be at the Tokyo show on Saturday, and if she goes fast, your girl's gonna be mad. I'm not flying to Tokyo for an abridged version of Taylor Swift, which she would never. She would never. One, Tokyo, we're 14 hours ahead of the East Coast. So, like, technically the show that I'm seeing is on Saturday, but it's gonna be like Friday here. So everything's fine. She'll be back for the Super Bowl. Everyone needs to chill out. I'm excited though. I'm very excited to go to Tokyo. I'm excited to go to Disney. So that's what's coming up for me. Yeah. Should we talk about what we're talking about today? Enough about Kelly's life. I wanted to talk about this topic because I'm seeing a lot of emails about this in my inbox, and I'm getting a lot of messages online, and I thought, why not just do a whole episode on half marathoning? Because I think the half marathon is the most attainable distance. I think it is the most exciting. I think it's the most like terrifying when you're not a runner and you're training for a half marathon. 13.1 miles feels like 100 million billion miles, and rightly so. It's very far. I get frustrated with my athletes when we say I'm just running a half marathon, or any people in general, because no, there is no just half marathon. 13.1 miles is an insane distance to run. I'm finally running like pretty far again since spraining my ankle last November. And I think this last week I ran like 11 and a half. And I was just like, that is so insanely far to just do, because the fact that we do this is so wild. We are wild. So I'm really excited to do this. If you are training for a spring half marathon, we have an upcoming spring half marathon training experience coming. So if you're doing like a May or an early June half marathon, that would be for you if you are not a member of the team. Our team obviously gets entry into all of our training experiences, but you also can train for whatever you want to year round and have lots of support. But if you're looking to see what training with us is all about and you don't want to do a running plan, you want a little bit more support with the coaching calls, give that training experience a try. I believe registration opens for it on February 5th, maybe. It doesn't start for another month, so keep your eyes peeled for the specifics, but definitely check that out. It is really nice to have a team and a coach to train with who can adjust things for you, make sure that you're focusing on things and learning and practicing with your tools. You're not like on your own to figure it out, which you absolutely can do, but it's nice to have that resource. So check that out. Our next training experience starts on February 5th. It's a 5K and 10K training experience. So if you really want to play with mental game and do some base building or try to build some strength mentally and physically, I would definitely look into joining us. Our training experiences are really, really fun. So that's what's coming up. So on the half marathon vein, oh my gosh, my friendship bracelets. I'm so lazy. I bought friendship bracelets for Taylor Swift. They're right here. That's so funny. I'm going to Tokyo. All right, let's talk. So first of all, how far is a half marathon? A half marathon is 13.1 miles. It is 13.1 miles. It's 13.1 miles in a hair over 21 kilometers. I want to say it's like 21.1 kilometers. Is that right? I think that's right. Something like that. So 13.1 miles. A lot of people can go from 0 to 13.1 miles in 8 weeks or even 12 weeks. I would say the average training plan is about 12 weeks long, and it'll start you in 20 and 30-minute runs and take you all the way up to that distance. So, why is the half marathon such a scary distance? Well, because if you stand still and go and mark what 13 miles away is and you look at a landmark, you're going to be like, hot damn, that is so insanely far away. I will never, ever, ever forget running my first marathon. And when I got to the halfway point, which is 13.1 miles, and it wasn't even a straight shot from there to the finish, but I could see where the finish line was in downtown San Diego. I had that landmark of like where the buildings were. I remember I broke down. I had a full on panic moment and I cried. I was so scared. I was so freaked out. How can I run that far? That's so far away. It's hard not to get in your head about it. So don't worry about it, right? What will happen already has. We're not we're not there yet. We're just in this part right here, which is either the build up, the base building period, or possibly week 1, right? What needs to happen from here until your half marathon is just for you to define what you want out of this training, define why you're here, get curious about everything and anything, and to just do your best. That truly is all I personally as a coach expect out of all of my athletes. You don't have to be the best. You don't have to do it perfectly. All you need to do is set some expectations for yourself that are rooted in like possibility and then go for it, right? So let's start there. How do you choose a half marathon? Well, are you like a lot of people and are you being peer pressured into running one with a friend? Do you already know which one you're doing, right? If that's the case, then perfect. You know which half marathon to do. But otherwise, you can ask yourself like, is it a time of year that I want to run? Do you want to do it in the fall? Do you want to do it in the spring? Is that something that's playing a factor in how you choose a half marathon? Is the amount of time that you think it's going to take you to train for a half marathon playing a factor, right? If you're a fairly active person, but you don't run, right? Maybe you hit workout classes 3 days a week and you strength train 1 or 2 days a week. Maybe you're big in spin and you spin 4 or 5 days a week, right? Like check in with your athletic level now. If you're a fairly active person, you could probably get away with 8 weeks if an upcoming local training a race, excuse me, not training. If an upcoming local half marathon is 8 weeks away, or maybe 10, you absolutely can go with an abridged training, even though we're going to start you little, like smaller in terms of the running, right? Just because you have a good aerobic like base and it's not running aerobic, it's like cycling or swimming or other things, doesn't mean that you should just jump in with 45 or 60-minute runs. We still want to build you slowly so that we don't put you at risk of an injury. And then once you start to get into it, you can be a bit more specific about how you're training so that you're getting the most out of all of your runs. And we can be smart about how we build your long runs so that you're not going by 10 minutes a build every single weekend. Maybe we're giving you 1 or 2 miles or 10 or 20 minutes every few weekends to help you get ready. Things like that, or the amount of running days that you're doing, right? Your half marathon training plan, your training at large is not your long runs, right? That's one piece of a much bigger puzzle. The pieces of the puzzle are your daily runs, right? How many days a week do you want to run? Some people run 2 days a week, some people run 3 days a week, some people run 4, 5, 6 days a week. I don't recommend 7 days a week. I don't recommend streaks. I just think for most people they're not sustainable and they're not healthy. So, not everybody. Some people fabulous, amazing, go for it. But I think for most people it is really important to get used to taking time at least 1 day off where you're not running, you're not thinking about running, you're not moving, you're just vegging out. I think is really important. So we want to figure out how many days a week is good for you. A lot of people can't handle back to back to back running days, 3 back to back running days. Some people can't even handle 2 back to back running days, and we need to slowly build up to it if we're going to build up to it. So every single person is different. What's most important is that we get you into the habit of running regularly and that we're not taking on too much too soon. So that's first, right? The first thing obviously is to figure out your race. What are you doing? Is it a hilly course? Is it a flat course? How do I find out? You're going to go to the website. You're going to go look at something called an elevation chart. And you don't need to learn how to read the elevation chart, but just look at it. Do you see any substantial climbs and dips, right? go online and Google, is X race a hilly race? Or is X race a net downhill? Type in some of those words: hilly race, net downhill, pancake flat, things like that. What type of elevation is this course? See if anything comes up that you can gain, right? If you're going to run a really, really hilly race, we want to make sure that you are training on hills. That can be just in your training when you're going out, you're picking hillier routes so that you're just getting work on those hills. You're working on glute strength, you're working on muscle strength, you're working on mental strength so that when you come upon a hill, you're not thinking like, oh, this hill. You're like, yeah, you're either completely neutral, you're not thinking anything of it, or in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, F yeah, I'm so strong. I got this. This is no problem, right? Those are the kinds of things we want to be thinking about. In addition, we want to think more hill repeats. That's a quality session. So in addition to how many running days are you doing, your normal running days are going to be slow, strong, and steady, conversational paced. That's one pace. That's one piece of the puzzle. The next piece of the puzzle is quality sessions or speed work, right? Now, you don't have to do speed work in a training cycle. You can completely skip it if you want. I recommend it. Highly, highly, highly recommend it. It's going to make you a better runner. It's going to make you a stronger runner. It's going to make you a more resilient runner. It is going to break up your running so that you can work differently and you have different things to focus on. If you're terrified by it, that's okay. Let's try it. Let's see what happens, right? Quality work, things like hill repeats or track work, or out in the wild, you're going to be doing threshold pace work where you're running a little bit faster than conversational pace, comfortably uncomfortable. We're stressing your system a little bit differently when we're doing speed work. Highly recommend at least one day a week be a quality session or speed play day, right? Quality session, speed work, speed play, all the same thing. That's one type of workout, right? So we have time on our feet days at conversational pace. That's one piece of the puzzle. We've got quality sessions, speed play, uh, speed work. That's another piece of the puzzle. So we have two pieces of the puzzle. The next piece of the puzzle is the rest day, right? Just like we had just talked about, at least one complete rest day. That's my advice to you. That means that day you're going to really prioritize seeing people that you're maybe not seeing as much of. You're going to rest, you're going to get your sleep, you're going to foam roll. Maybe you can do something restorative type yoga if you really, really, really want to, but for the most part, just chill. It's a chill day. Take it off. Enjoy it, right? Rest, refuel, replenish. That's the rest day, right? So we have time on our feet, conversational pace runs. We've got speed play, quality sessions, speed work days, right? Those three things are are the same exact thing, different words for the same word. And then we have rest days. Next up, we have strength work. Now, technically, strength work is not is strength work is a cross training activity. I like to keep my strength work and my cross training, the way I build plans, separate as two separate blocks. So most of the time they are together. So you'll see cross training 30 to 45 minutes, or maybe it's 45 to 60 minutes, and you'll see strength work. I like to keep them separate because when people are playing with their plans, I think it's easier to cut things when things need to get cut when you see them separately, because I want you to prioritize your strength work. And if you have to cut a cross training day or a running day, go for it, but keep the strength because the strength is really important. At the run show this week, I was watching this doctor give a presentation, and he was it was wild. I was sitting there, jaw on the floor. It was like a myth busting presentation, and this guy's a doctor, an exercise physiologist, and he was telling people, "Don't do strength work. Strength work won't make you faster." Like, it was, like, framed like that, but in the sense that he was basically just straight up telling people, "Don't do strength work." And, one of the women who was sitting on the panel about masters runners, she's a physical therapist, and we had, like, hung out and gotten to know each other, and she was sitting next to me. And I just walked over her to her and I was like, "How are you feeling watching this?" And we were both just like, "What is happening right now? What is this talk? This is insane." Strength work is really important because if you think of most everyday people, we run like total dodos. We we aren't going to do the things that a professional runner will do because it's not our jobs and we don't have time. We don't have physical therapists at our beck and whim. We don't have a physio. We don't have a chiropractor. We don't have the tons and tons of years of experience warming up, cooling down, working on our gait, working on our form, doing all the things. Like just showing up and doing 50% of what's expected is already really difficult. Strength work is important because if you think about running is a single leg sport. We are hopping from one foot to the other in one single plane of motion. So it's very easy to, if you are not stabilizing and you don't have strength in places like your hips or your glutes, it's very easy to start to have different muscles, tendons, ligaments, other parts of your body overcompensate for something else that isn't, recruiting the muscles it needs to be recruiting because they're weak or this, that, or the other. So that's where injuries happen. And strength work absolutely does help prevent injuries and make you feel better on the run. So to hear this guy say there's no science to support the fact that strength work prevents injuries was nutso. I don't know a single physical therapist who would agree with that. And call it anecdotal. I helped so many runners and myself included. Strength work makes me a much, much better, more resilient, less injured runner. So fuck that guy. Do your strength work. And let's just talk about this as we age. It is so important, especially as women, to maintain whatever bone density we have for as long as humanly possible. And that means that you have to be lifting heavy and lifting explosively. That is the only way to really make sure that you're not preventing bone density loss as you age, because it's going to happen, right? Like as you enter postmenopause, that is just what happens. And you have a really hard time putting on muscle mass. I mean, I'm not even going to say you have a really hard time. It is incredibly difficult to put on muscle mass once you enter postmenopause. So our jobs are always to be taking care of ourselves and putting us in a position where we can move well for life. And as we think about aging, strength work and lifting heavy and all of that is such an important piece of the puzzle. So again, fuck this guy. Do your strength work. It is so important. In terms of training as a runner, there is definitely runner specific strength work that you should be doing, but I'll always say something is better than nothing. So if you like to go to classes or you like to do certain workouts that aren't necessarily runner specific, fabulous, amazing. You're still putting yourself in a position where you're better for it than not to do it at all. So again, pieces of the puzzle. Running days where you're running conversational paced, speed play days, rest days, strength work days. Next up. Next up is cross training days, right? So we just talked about how technically strength work is cross training, but I like to keep them separate as a running coach. Cross training, in my eyes, the way I like to talk about it is aerobic exercise. So that's barely breathless exercise where you can have a conversation with someone that ideally works complementary running muscles with low impact. So something like cycling or swimming are great ways to cross train. But I know that you're a normal person and all of you have ways that you like to move your bodies that you genuinely enjoy. So whether that's a class like Orange Theory, or maybe it's hiking or surfing or pickleball or dance, dance cardio or dance yoga or tennis or golf or walking. There's so many different ways that you can, move your body. What's most important to me is that you are really, really, really paying attention to listening to your body so that you can make the best decisions for yourself as you're doing your cross training. Make sure you're not doing too many hard days back to back to back to back to back. You're keeping them, conversational and aerobic. But if you have ways that you like to move your body that you actually enjoy, do that. If you're like, I'm not really in the habit of anything. What should I do? Cycling, indoor cycling or swimming or the stair climber or an elliptical, right? All really great ways to cross train. So those are kind of like the pieces of the puzzle. As in terms of training plan, right? You'll have X amount of running days, X amount of cross training days, X amount of strength work days, and one rest day. That's how it works. How the plan builds is going to be super dependent on the type of plan that you've signed up for. I know in Badass Lady Gang, I like to offer them level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4, and they correspond with how much running and how intense your running will be on your quality sessions. So level 4, you'll be running 5 or 6 days a week with 2 harder speed play days, and you'll be getting 6 to 8 miles on those speed play days. So it's a fairly intense plan. Whereas a level 1 it's not an easy plan. There's nothing easy about level 1. It's just a plan that if you can run 3 days a week and you're not currently running much, that's the plan that you'll choose because you wanna make sure that you're coming into a training plan where you are. I think that's one of the biggest tips that I have for people is a lot of the time you'll find a race, and then you'll find a training plan, that let's just say the training that our race is 10 weeks away from today. I'm not running it all right now, but I get a training plan. I jump into week 2 because that's kind of where I'm at, right? That's how to get it to align to the training. Instead of backing up and starting from a place that's attainable and feels doable, I'm jumping ahead so that the training plan fits with the schedule. That's not really what you want. I would much rather you start in week 1, even if it's week 4, and go in order. And then this is the way I would advise you if I'm not coaching you, if I've never met you, if you don't know what you're doing. For a half marathon, you can do a 2-week taper. So if week 12 is race week, week 11 is taper, and then week 10 is going to be your peak week. So I would say, let's again go back. Let's do this. It is currently, if I were to be training, I would be in week 3 of a training plan. I haven't run at all. I would make this week 1, and then I would where weeks 8 and 9 are, I would just kind of cross them out, and I would just go from week 7 to week 11 and then week 12. That's what I would do. So even though my longest long run is gonna be possibly 3 miles or 30 minutes less than what it would build me to if I were to start in week 1. It's much better to go into a race undertrained than it is to try to jump ahead, do too much too soon, and put yourself at risk for an over injury. Again, this is like blanket advice for someone who isn't going to find a coach, is just going to find either like a free plan online or a training plan and then like adjust it themselves. That's what I would rather someone do, is start in week 1, even if you buy the plan and adjust to your plan, it just puts you into week 3 or 4 or 5. Just start in week 1 and then cut out those peak weeks at the end, but keep your taper. So you're going to do the week before the race, and then the week of the race are the 2 that you'll keep. And then you'll cut however much from there. That's what I would advise. That's what I would advise. And then I would be really, really, really mindful that you're not doing too much too soon, and don't be afraid to take extra rest days, do extra cross training days instead of a run, or to just like pull that long run back. So that's something to think about. Your training plan. Make sure that you're getting something that challenges you, that feels fun, that feels doable, but that doesn't feel like you're just like putting your feet to the flame and you're just kind of like feeding yourselves to the wolves. Start where you are, make sure your plan supports where you're at. And if you don't know what that means, again, like highly recommend getting a coach. If you want to come train with the Baddest Lady Gang, you can come train with us. You can do a training experience with us. You can join the team for a month. You can join the team for 3 months. You can join the team for a year. All that's available to you. Or you can find other people online. Other things to think about, right? Do your mental work. Try to get into the habit of, before you run, start paying attention to what you're saying to yourself before, during, and after workouts. Write it down. Write things down in a journal. Write down how things are going. Write down what's working and what isn't working. You don't need to write a book every single time you go for a run, but quick thoughts will help you start to notice the coins that you're putting into the coin jar. That is kind of the analogy that I like to use in terms of training. Everything that you're doing, feeding yourself, staying hydrated both on the run and off the run, doing your mobility, meaning dynamic warm-ups, dynamic cool downs, your foam rolling, doing, the bare minimum of training, doing your strength work, things like that. Everything that you do, getting enough sleep at night, those are coins in the coin jar. Sometimes they're a lot of money. Sometimes you're putting a $20 bill in the coin jar. You have a huge, huge, huge day where you do everything that you wanted to do and more. $20 bill in the coin jar, right? Other days, you're doing the bare minimum, maybe less than that, and you're just foam rolling or whatever, right? Like coins in the coin jar. It's okay. It's still nickels and dimes or quarters. Every single cent counts, and it all adds up over however long that you're training for this race, right? One thing I didn't mention that I kind of want to throw in is you can do base building before you start a plan. Can you go from couch to half marathon in 12 weeks? 100%. But you might have a little bit more fun if you take something like 8 weeks at least, where you go from 0 to 5K or something like that. Sometimes it's easier to have an outcome goal like a 5K or something, where you can have something to work towards in that 8-week period. You do some base building just to help build your aerobic base before jumping into a plan, so that you can just feel a little bit better, a little bit stronger, and have a bit more fun before you start half marathon training. So that's something to think about when you think about your training. I like a lot of my athletes to do something like base building or to do a 5K plan or something, and then give themselves 1 or 2 weeks off before they actually go into half marathon or whatever training. Just because if we were to spend 12 weeks half marathon training and then 8 weeks base building, that's 5 months of work. That is a long time to focus on one thing, the half marathon. So I like to break it up with shorter term goals, and then breaks where you're not doing any sort of specific training. You're just moving how you want to, when you want to, because you want to. You lose a tiny bit of fitness, but that's okay. You build it back quickly. Give yourself a break mentally, physically. Go pay attention to the people in your lives you haven't seen in a while, to make sure that you're fighting off the urge to be a total and complete run hole, right? Like, go be normal. And then we start half marathon training, right? So that's just something to think about as well. Coins in the coin jar. So a lot of training plans, if you think about it, are like 125, 130% of work. Meaning, if you check every single box, you're doing more than enough to get you ready up for race day. So let's say I always like to use Disneyland as my example, but we can also use buying a house. Let's say we're going to take this entire 12-week training cycle to save to buy a house. Our goal is we're going to save $1 a day. And or let's say we're gonna try to save $7 a week over 12 weeks. So that's what, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84. That's $84. That's the goal. If you checked every single box in your training plan, you wouldn't save $84. You'd probably save closer to $100, $110, more than enough money. So let's say $74 is what it takes to get into Disneyland, right? We're saving to get into Disneyland, forgetting our house analogy. Disneyland is most fun when not only when you go to Disneyland, but when you can buy things at Disneyland, when you can eat lots of food, when you can buy lots of nonsense, you can buy the ears, you can buy all sorts of tchotchkes and gadgets and gizmos aplenty, right? Same with buying a house. You can't just buy a house. You have to buy the house insurance. You have to pay your mortgage every single month. You have electricity, things like that. So though doing every single thing, if you're a perfectionist, you want to check every single box, though that is the goal, that is not the reality of what is expected of you, right? There are things that are going to get cut from week to week to week because you are not a machine. You don't have all the time in the world. Your life is going to throw curveballs your way. If there's one thing you can expect, it's to expect the unexpected. So don't be afraid to pick the things, right? Like, sometimes when you race, you're going to have an A goal, a B goal, and a C goal, right? A is best case scenario. Everything goes to plan. You have the best day in the world. B goal is a little bit more realistic, right? It's probably not your specific outcome goal, but it's this is the goal that you think you are pretty confident about hitting, regardless of whether you have a good day or a bad day. And then the C goal is, if all the wheels come off, this is what we're this is what we're going to try to make happen, right? Same with training, A, B, C. We're shooting for the B goal, right? B goal means things get cut. Not every box is going to get checked. Every single week, I want you to sit down with your schedule, and I want you to figure out, right? Like, kind of, what is realistic for you this week? What are the things that you can absolutely kind of sort of commit to trying to make happen? Maybe it's 3 days of running and 1 strength training day. But Kelly, you said to do 2 strength training days. Yes, I did. But if 1 is possible, that's what I want you to do. Well, how long should my strength training be? How long do you have? Right? If you only have 60 minutes available to you to do both your strength work and your run, I would actually rather you, instead of going for a 60-minute run like it says on your training plan, I would rather you do 40 minutes of running and then 20 minutes of strength work to get both of those boxes in. So there needs to be a little bit of flexibility for you. But also, I need you to just sit down with your schedule, look ahead, try to figure out what days are going to be jam-packed, what days are a little bit more flexible, what days do you think, no, there's no way I'm going to work out. This last training experience, I had an athlete who was ironically going to Disney World, and we were talking, and she's like, "Well, I would love for you to help me move things around in my training plan." And I was like, "Absolutely." I was like, "Do you think you're gonna run while you're there?" And she's like, and she didn't like, at first was kind of like, "Well, the training plan says," and I was like, I really don't care what the training plan says. What do you want to do and expect to do on vacation? Do you think you're really not gonna run? Because if you don't think you're gonna run, don't even bring your running clothes, right? If you in the back of your mind are like, "I know we're gonna be exhausted hitting up, you know, all the sites, walking 10, 15 miles a day, doing everything I can on, on vacation to get the most out of it. And I normally don't like to run on vacation. Don't worry about it. Just don't run, right? Maybe you can get some strength training in, or maybe not. Maybe we're just going to completely write it as a wash. I know for this athlete, like, we just made it a wash. I'm like, you're going to take 5 days off. It's not the end of the world. Go on vacation and don't worry about it. I don't want you in the back of your mind thinking, shit, I should be, I should be, I should be. Let's just plan for what we think is realistic. And if you want to bring your running clothes and you find 1 or 2 days to go for a run or do your strength work or get on a elliptical, great. Extra coins in the coin jar, but that's not expected. It's okay to meet yourself where you are and to actually be honest with yourself about expectations, right? If your plan has 4 runs, 2 cross training days, 1 rest day, and 3 strength training days, and you know this week is insane with travel for work and kids are sick, 2 runs might feel a little bit insurmountable. So we're going to focus on trying to get the long run and 1 time on your feet day. We're just going to straight up cut your quality session, and we're going to try to make those 2 runs happen. And if they don't worry about it. Every plan can be flexible, every plan can be adjustable. So that's kind of what I want you to do during training, is to like look ahead, be honest with yourself, like keep a journal, keep track of your thoughts, all of that good stuff. Next, I want you to try to figure out your hydration and your fueling strategy. It is something that so many runners don't think to figure out because they don't think they're serious enough, or it's just so like confusing and complicated that they don't want to. How you figure out both of them is by starting with a specific plan. For hydration, always go into your long run specifically hyperhydrated. Have sports drink at breakfast, a bottle of sports drink. Finish that bottle with 90 minutes to go before you start running. So you have more than enough time to absorb everything you're going to absorb and excrete everything you're going to excrete so that you're not running for bathrooms, right? That's the baseline. And then from there, we want to figure out, are you drinking 1 water bottle, 8 liters of fluid every hour? Not water, sports drink, right? Make a plan for what you're drinking when, and then you want to ask yourself, I felt really thirsty, or I felt like I needed to hit the bathroom 6 times, right? I feel like I was really energetic, or this worked. Start getting specific about stuff, and then you can tweak it, right? You can be as simple as 1 Gatorade an hour, right? That's what you can do. And then you can ask yourself, how did that feel? Did it feel like too much fluid, right? Tweak and play again next week. The same goes for fueling. The way that you fuel long distance is we have enough glycogen in our bodies to get us to about 90 minutes to 2 hours. But we do want to train your gut and we do want to practice. So anything longer than 90 minutes, we're going to practice with our energy gels or our food. You can play with real food. So you can do things like mashed potatoes. You can do things like rice or rice cakes. You could do protein bars, things like that. You just want to make sure that you're getting a little bit specific. If you're doing protein bars, you're going to turn that protein bar or that granola bar over, and you're going to say, how many carbs are in this thing, right? So let's just say 1 bar is 24 grams, because we know, like, let's just say one packet of goo is 24 grams. We're going to do that. We're going to do 1 every 30 minutes. And then you're going to ask yourself, how did that feel? And you're like, I had a really hard time getting them down after an hour and a half. Great. But I felt really energetic. So can we push it to 40 minutes and see how that feels? And then might be like, well, actually, then I felt foggy, or I felt tired, or I felt bitchy, right? And I say bitchy not in a mean way. Sometimes we get irrational or bitchy or angry, or we just get in a bad headspace because we just need more energy. So 30 to 40 minutes is about when you should be taking stuff in. The average person needs at least 30 grams an hour of carbs. So that's your baseline. Make a plan and shift from there. Those are 2 things I encourage you to figure out and check in with. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. I know this is a little bit of a plot twist, but I kind of think we're going to stop there and we're going to make this a two-parter. So we're going to do training in one part and then we're going to do racing in a second part next week. So stay tuned for next week when we talk about racing a half marathon. Yes? All right, everybody. Kick ass. Take names. Oh my God. Look, all my sourdough bread is on my sweater. That's so funny. Oh, if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but just imagine me covered in flour. All right, everybody. Bye. See you next week when we talk about racing.